Now Elijah the Tishbite from Tishbe in Gilead said to Ahab, "As the Lord the God of Israel lives, whom I serve, there will be neither dew nor rain in the next few years except at my word." Then the word of the Lord came to Elijah, "Leave here, turn eastward and hide in the Kerith ravine, east of the Jordan. You will drink from the brook, and I have directed the ravens to supply you with food there." So he did what the Lord had told him. He went to the Kerith ravine east of the Jordan and stayed there. The ravens brought him bread and meat in the morning and bread and meat in the evening, and he drank from the brook. Sometime later the brook dried up because there had been no rain in the land. Then the word of the Lord came to him, "Go at once to Zarephath in the region of Sidon." So he went to Zarephath. When he came to the town gate, a widow was gathering sticks. He called to her and asked, "Would you bring me a little water in a jar so I may have a drink?" As she was going to get it, he called, "And bring me, please, a piece of bread." "As surely as your Lord your God lives," she replied, "I don't have any bread, only a handful of flour in a jar and a little olive oil in a jug. I am gathering a few sticks to take home and make a meal for myself and my son, that we may eat it and die." Elijah said to her, "Don't be afraid. Go home and do as you have said. But first make a small loaf of bread for me from what you have and bring it to me. And then make something for yourself and your son. For this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. The jar of flour will not be used up, and the jug of oil will not run dry, until the day the Lord sends rain on the land." She went away and did as Elijah had told her. So there was food every day for Elijah and for the woman and her family. For the jar of flour was not used up, and the jug of oil did not run dry, in keeping with the word of the Lord spoken by Elijah. Sometime later, the son of the woman who owned the house became ill. He grew worse and worse, and finally he stopped breathing. She said to Elijah, "What do you have against me, man of God? Did you come to remind me of my sin and kill my son?" "Give me your son," Elijah replied. He took him from her arms, carried him to the upper room where he was staying, and laid him on his bed. Then he cried out to the Lord, "Lord my God, have you brought tragedy even on this widow I am staying with by causing her son to die?" Then he stretched himself out on the boy 3 times and cried out to the Lord, "Lord my God, let this boy's life return to him." The Lord heard Elijah's cry, and the boy's life returned to him, and he lived. Elijah picked up the child, carried him from the room into the house. He gave him to his mother and said, "Look, your son is alive." Then the woman said to Elijah, "Now I know that you are a man of God, and that the word of the Lord from your mouth is the truth."
Whene'er I tend to grumble, Lord, of what is ailing me, you show me folk who's far worse off than I will ever be. So, Lord, I'll count my blessings. I'm rich beyond compare. I have a lot to thank you for each time I come in prayer. For me, you gave your only Son. For me, you let him die. Ashamed am I in grumbling, Lord. I'm blessed, I know not why. Remind me to be thankful when feeling so hard-pressed, to think of those who's far worse off, that I am truly blessed.
We can all get into a rut, and from time to time feel depressed and frustrated. We also love to hear bad news, and at times we enjoy being the bearer of bad news. And because of all this noise, we fail to hear what God is saying to us, and because of this we tend to miss our opportunities that he provides us. I wonder if this describes you this day. Are you stuck? Have the blessings you once received dried up and you're living on past memories? God's asking you to move on, but are you refusing? Our Bible reading is a peek into the life of the prophet of God, Elijah, who thought he was the last prophet in the whole of the land. He believed that he was the last man standing who had not bowed to God's enemies. Elijah was an intimate of God, and he was used as an instrument of judgment. The people, and especially the leadership of the Jews, were in disobedience, and they had gone astray. Because of their behaviour, they brought upon themselves a drought, which would be used to help them turn back to the one who loved and desired to bless them. Elijah had told the king that no water would fall for the next few years. He described a disaster, and only Elijah could pray for it to end. This meant that the people of Israel would be experiencing drought for 3 years, and they would go without. Elijah knew that he would be in trouble for being a bearer of such bad and sad news, even though this was God's judgment upon the land. Not because of God, but because of the behaviour of the people, especially the king and queen. And of course the queen was called Jezebel. She had encouraged this disobedience. God had brought judgment, for they had forgotten him, and no rain would fall. This was just to get the people's attention, because more things would follow. Most of us like to tell bad news, but not if we are going to get blamed for it. In those days, being a bearer of such news could be costly if the audience did not like the news that was brought before them. They could even take away your life. Elijah hid away in a ravine as God had told him. God did not abandon his servant though. God sent ravens to bring Elijah meat and bread each morning and evening, and a stream provided him with water. God loves those who are his children. God loves those and desires to bless his children, even when his children are bearers of bad news. Elijah was safe for the time being, but a time would come when Elijah would have to move on. I wonder if you are safe and secure, and is God encouraging you to move on? The ravine had finite resources, its comforts were limited. God blesses in a particular way for a particular reason, for a period of time. A stream of blessings which come from him, but they're not designed to last a lifetime. He expects us to follow a time of rest and recuperation. We are then to move forward, to change our direction and grow and develop. This enables us to attain new levels of life, rather than relish our current location and the level that we are on. We should never say times can never get any better. A time was coming for Elijah, though ravens brought meat and bread, even though they were unclean animals to him. Is it the same for you as God's people? Do you believe, do you expect to remain in the same place, either physically or spiritually? You must expect growth. You should be expecting change. You should be looking at ways to enhance your experience of God and to be open to the mind and direction of him. During the times of change, if we give God a chance, he does not leave us on our own, and rather he expects us to move forward. And he doesn't expect us to manage with mediocrity. Rather, he desires us to have the best. He tells us what we should do. He told Elijah to leave the place of comfort that God had prepared for him, as meals were brought to him evening and morning, and where no one had disturbed him. He told him that he would have to walk to a town which was 70 miles away, where a new blessing had been prepared and was waiting for him. God tells his servant what to do and where to go, and not to delay. He says, go at once. God had prepared the way for his servant, and he would be looked after. He would receive food and water and have a company of a family. The widow did not know this. All she could hear when the prophet of God turned up, the man of God turned up, was someone asking of her for things in her hunger and thirst. Would you bring me a little water in a jar so I may have a drink? God's prophet was testing to see if this was the right woman. He asked her a favour, a request, to have a little water. The land had been in drought for many years, but water could still be found in a well. And that was not impossible for her. But another request was coming, and this she could not respond to, or so she thought. As she was going to get it, he called, and bring me please a piece of bread. As surely as the Lord your God lives, she replied. I don't have any bread, only a handful of flour in a jar and a little oil in a jug. I am gathering a few sticks to take home and make a meal for myself and my son, that we may eat it and die. Elijah said to her, don't be afraid. Go home and do as you have said. But first make a small cake of bread for me from what you have and bring it to me, and make something for yourself and your son. What was her plan? It was a plan of failure, defeat and death. She had nothing to live for, and the meagre resources which she had allocated for her last meal. And following that, she could then die, and she would take her son with her, for they had nothing. Her state of mind was that of failure. She had no hope, purpose, husband, or future, or so she thought. The resources she had was very limited. Yet in the middle of all of this, a man was demanding of things which she thought were impossible of her. God can take any hopeless situation and turn it around. God can take the hopeless and provide purpose so that they can have hope again. God can take the dead and breathe new life into them so they can live again. God can take those without a plan for the future and show them his plan so they can see the road ahead and have joys, dreams, purpose, and experience peace once again. God insists, though, to enable this to happen, obedience, and this enables him then to bless. Are you obedient to God? Or are you full of fear and doubt? Can you hear God? Or are you deaf to him? What are your plans? Are they just like that widow's? Do you see no future for yourself? Do you know no purpose? And the plan for the existence of your life is limited. Are you trying to eke out your meagre resources for a little while longer, and then you can pass from this world? Perhaps you believe that your spiritual life is at an end, and God cannot now do anything with you. Do you believe that you have no joy or purpose or energy, and all that's been allocated to you in your life has been used up? If that is the case, then just as that widow thought she had nothing, why not allow God to take the meagre resources that you have in your hands and allow him to sustain you and bring you bounty, growth, and enable you to rediscover joy, peace once again? Leave those memories of past glories behind you. Leave those memories of your youth behind you, far behind, and embrace what God wills and wants for your life, so that he may be able to bless you. Let him bless you. Do not resist, but embrace him. Do not fight it, but allow him to place faith in your life so that he might provide you with hope. The widow thought that she had nothing, and she believed she could never bless anyone ever again, and because of this she had given up. She was bereft of hope, and she did not want to go on. Yet God says, come to me, and I will transform that hopelessness into life which is full of me. It's not too late. The woman thought it was, but in reality it's just the beginning. The widow was prepared to take another life because of her hopelessness. It was like a disease, a cancer, which she was prepared to give into. Who are you prepared to take with you because you believe this is the end? Who are you prepared to destroy because you believe there is nothing more? Who are you prepared to take into darkness because you see no hope or light? Jesus came to give us hope, life, light. He came to heal and give sight to the blind, to allow the prisoners to break free, to no longer be shackled by this world and the hopelessness that it contains. These blessings, this power, this purpose is available to you. This is God's gift to you. If you have life, then why not experience it in a new and more powerful and wonderful level with him? The widow thought the cupboard was empty, but God took the little that she had and turned everything around and gave her bounty. God sent his prophet to the widow, to the lowliest in society, someone who needed the love and hope of God. She needed a blessing, not one of swift release, but one of hope and purpose. Without the man of God, then this widow would have died, and her son would have perished with her, and the lives which were contained in him and his wife would have been lost to time and this world forever. Do you want your life to change? Do you want to live a different level of experience of life? Do you want purpose and allow yourself the hope and joy of a new vista in this world? And then allow God to minister to you so that your world can change. What then is it to be? Do you want to grow and go? Are you ready to be a people of movement? To have power and hope and desire a new experience of life from the one who created you? Or are you happy instead to have the same plan that you've had for many years, just like that woman had, to eat the last of your blessings that you once had, and then die, and then take as many of those around you as you can? You have a choice then, to have life and to gain purpose, or to reject God's blessings and accept the world's silken arms of death. This day, which is it to be for you?